Hey guys, welcome. It is Friday, April 10th, and here we are getting ready to paint our flowers and wheelbarrow. I'm Ashley Amick. You can find me at Yard@RS. All of the things that you're going to see here this evening are available at yard@rs.com. So give me just 1 second. I'm going to try to get all of my technology hooked up. Hey, Danae. Hey, Mom. How are you guys? Alrighty. Excuse me. I have to be dead honest with you guys and let y'all know that I have repainted these patterns 4 times tonight, or today, excuse me. I simply could not come up with the way I really wanted to go about this. So I kept changing my mind. I kept changing the colors on everything. And I still am not 100% convinced on what I'm going to show you guys. I'm not convinced that I love it. Anytime I'm painting something new, I always struggle to find exactly what I want to do with that piece. And so it always takes me quite a bit of time figuring out the colors or the brush strokes or, how I'm going to make my vision come to life. So I'll let you guys know straight up, the vision I had for the wheelbarrow and the flowers, I just could not make it work. I did my best because I tried to practice before coming on, and it's been a nightmare. So I'm really hoping you guys like what I've come up with, but if you don't, I understand because I've struggled to come up with the same thing. So did I just do this live on my personal page? I so did. Oops, my bad. That's okay. All right, so I went ahead and got 1 coat of white on my flowers that I'm gonna do tonight. That's all I did on them, just 1 coat of white. Really something to give me a background because a lot of the colors that I'm using tonight, they definitely need 2 coats. So I found if I did it with a white background, I could do 1 coat of my color and the colors looked really good. But for instance, I had played around with the wheelbarrow and I just got 1 coat of brown and a coat of white. Well, I had did this yesterday with brown all the way across, and then I noticed that the colors I'm gonna use on my flowers, like I got a new coral, we got a new sky blue, and then we got a seafoam green. So these are the colors I'm going to use today, but they're very opaque if you only use 1 coat. So I did a coat of white, and then 1 coat of all 3 of these colors looked really good. So that's why I started with my white. You're going to see that by the time we finish this, there is no white on the background, but it gives me a good priming layer and something for the paint to stick to that I'm going to put on there. So I'm still trying to get all my stuff set up on my end, just like always. I had a new cable provider out today, and I was trying to switch cable and internet because the internet connection out where we live in the sticks is terrible. And so I did a lot of calling around yesterday trying to find a new internet provider, and apparently the 40 megabytes per second I'm getting is the absolute best I can get in my area. So I have to stay with them. However, their cable stinks as well. So I went ahead and at least switched that today. So I had people out here. It's been crazy. I'm so glad that y'all are here with me. It's what, Friday? Is it Friday? It's Friday night, yeah. So I'm so glad that you guys joined me to paint. So we're just gonna start by getting our base coat on here. Actually, no, I'm gonna take that back. There's a reason I did my coat of brown. This is just my reindeer brown. I did this first, and that's because I'm gonna do the dry brush look on it. If you saw my welcome truck the other day, I did the same exact look on him with the dry brushing. The reason you want to do this first is because you're gonna see me come across this white. In fact, if you look close, I already repainted it because I kind of did it too early, and I was already trying to prep for the live and have stuff already dry, and I kind of forgot that I needed to show that to you. So I had to repaint it brown so that I could show you guys this stuff. So first thing I'm gonna do is get my dry brush. I'm just using a 2-inch flat brush. You can get these at Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. And we're actually gonna have some of these available this weekend at the store for $1 if you'd rather get them from us, or if not, totally go to Home Depot. But I'm just using one of these cheap brushes, 2-inch brush. And I'm gonna take my dark brown. This one's already watered down a little bit. I prefer my paint to be watered down when I'm doing the dry brush look. To me, it just flows a little better. It flows more in the way that I'm wanting. So at this point, I'm trying to go the lengthwise of my piece, and I'm also trying to stay completely parallel with the bottom. So I'm gonna be following this bottom line and doing all of my brush strokes according to that line. Now, as you guys can see, I'm thinking you can see, I'm going over top of these other lines that are white, my flower lines. And that's okay. That's the whole reason I did this first, is so that by the time this dries and I'm moving on to that, that's already gonna be dry and ready. So, hey guys. Hey Melissa, Jennifer, Camille, good to see you guys. Oh, Jennifer said she loves seeing us paint. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. We love getting to paint with you guys. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if any of y'all felt, you know, lost when you were doing the peeps and the eggs and whatnot. But if you did, I joined you guys in that club today, trying to paint how I wanted this to be to come out after our live, because I knew I was gonna go live tonight. So, you know, during the day, obviously I prepped for that. I tried to make sure I got everything ready. And so I was trying to come up with a sample that I really wanted to go after, and I could not come up with a decent sample. Hey Deidre, good to see you. And so what I'm doing tonight is what I personally like the best, but it's different. It's a different style than you guys have ever seen me paint before. So it's new for me. I tried to do it in the style I always do this, and quite honestly, it just didn't look very good. And so I said, nope, I can't do that. I wanted to do something different. Hey Debbie, good to see you. So the dry brush on the wheelbarrow is the same kind of style you guys always see me paint. It's more when we're going to get to the shading and the outlining of the flowers that I try to do something different to achieve a really bright and bold look on a very small piece, because these flowers are only 8 inches tall. And so whenever you have a surface area that's that small, it's kind of hard to get all that shading and outlining in that you might normally want. All right, so on the dry brush, I started with that dark brown, right? I had my reindeer brown as the base. That's kind of your gingerbread brown. And then I took a dark brown, and then I just took a tan color inside of there. We actually call it camel. That's just our name for that color. And I took a camel, and what that does is that's gonna give me that dimension of wood. You have a darker color and you have a lighter color, but it's subtle enough that it still looks like wood grain. I personally love the wood grain look, whether you're doing wood or just trying to make something look distressed. It's a very, very easy look to achieve, no matter what your level of painting is. So that's something, honestly, I think you guys will love doing, because your look that you can get from that is just so much more drastic than what you're gonna be able to get from taking an actual shader and trying to give it that same look. So that's my start. I see Carol saying, will you have the new paint colors available tomorrow for purchase? Yes, Carol, we have that seafoam green, the sky blue, and the coral. We added these guys to our colors, and so you will be able to get these tomorrow. And then we'll also start carrying them from this day forward. So those are those new paints on my live I talked about, I think on Monday. I told you guys I was going to the paint store Tuesday, and those are what we picked out. So hopefully you guys will love them as much as we do. We really liked them. All right, y'all, so now that I finished that dry brushing, I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna start getting those colors on my flowers. So I used these 3 colors only. I really wanted to actually use more. I wanted to put a mustard yellow in here, but then I thought I'm really trying to accomplish a little bit much as far as what I can show you guys in a live video without having an 1.5-hour long video. I don't want to take too much of y'all's time. So I kind of scaled it back to just 3 colors, but you guys could always do 1 of each color, whatever colors you're wanting. I honestly think a yellow and a purple would look really good against the colors that we're gonna use tonight. But for the sake of time, I needed to scale myself back because it's easy to go overboard on me. So this pattern that you guys are seeing me paint, I don't know if you can see it, but I actually had to take a pen and draw the rest of the pattern in because this is one my machine kind of messed up and didn't etch the whole pattern. So I decided to pull it for live instead of sending it to the burn pile. So if you see my lines kind of jiggy-jaggedy, yeah, that's because I drew them myself. I knew this would be for video purposes, so, you know. All of yours that are in this store that you guys have ordered, they all have the lines etched all the way across. So, all right. I am just coming through and getting those colors on here. I chose to do, in the sample I kind of came up with earlier, I chose to do three coral flowers because the other two shades are so close to blue-green that I didn't want to overpower so much with that color. I really wanted a color to pop. So I'm using coral on 3 different flowers. And right now I'm just getting that base down so that when I'm ready to shade and outline, then this will be ready to go. So your base is always going to be the thing that you're going to do first. You're going to do your priming, that layer, that first coat that you put down, or even 2 coats. Especially if your piece stays white, you'll need 2 coats of white. But in this case, I just did 1 coat of white. I used a roller on it. And then now I can do that 1 coat of my color and it's going to stick and stay really well. And I won't be able to see through it. I'll show you guys as soon as I get this one finished with the priming section. I'll show you how well this looks on there with only 1 coat. Again, I don't think I've mentioned it yet. I know I mentioned it in all my videos, but I'm using a Cotman Mop Brush. You can actually get these at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, any of those places. We do have a Dick Blick affiliate link that we need to get out to you guys. We've been working on that on our end. But Dick Blick is a company that you can go and purchase paintbrushes from. And the reason why we like them is they have all the paintbrushes. So there's a few that we love that are different brands. So in order to actually go get them in one place, it's easier to go to a place like them. So Cotman that's our mop brush that we use. And then the Royal Gold is going to be those shaders and script liners that I personally use. You don't have to use what I use. Use what you have on hand. If you have something else on hand, totally fine. Don't go spending more money if you like what you have. But I did see several people asking about brushes in our painters group and on our Facebook page. And I'll always tell you guys what I use. You can, go find it, or we can send you a link. But if you don't want to do that and you want to use what you have, totally fine. So that's just my first coat of that coral. And so now I'm going to grab my next color because I'm done with the coral. So now I almost wish that this thing had some more flowers because I really could have kept going on colors, but I ran out of flowers. So I did 3 coral, and I'm going to do 1 blue, and then the other 2 I'm going to do that seafoam green. I'll show you guys that example I came up with here in just a minute. Actually, it's the next one I'm going to use as soon as all this is base coated. But I like how the colors came out and the contrast between all of them. It wasn't overpowering as far as colors, and it just looks really good together. So tell me guys, do you like the new coral? Do you like the new, I guess you can only see the sky blue and the coral so far. We really just wanted to bring y'all something new because we've had our same colors for years now. And when you're somebody that does the same thing all the time, it's easier to continue doing the same thing all the time. So we finally made ourselves go and get some different colors to try out with you guys. So that's the only one on my sky blue I'm gonna do. And the other 2 I'm doing the seafoam color. I think this one has been my favorite thus far. It's just so pretty, and I can already feel this bottle's gonna explode here in a minute. It's got a chunk of paint. I can't see it yet, but it's definitely there, so I'm gonna pull it out of this top right quick. This color is just one of those things that it looks gorgeous inside, outside, on like clothing, everything. I just love this color. And maybe if I got more adventurous in my house, I would actually paint it. And if I were to ever actually paint my house, I think it would have a color like this. I really like this for a beach theme bathroom. I think that would look so pretty. we moved into this house 15 months ago, and it was a brand new build. And so every single wall in the house is like a creamish, grayish color. And we've been here 15 months and we haven't painted a single wall. And I paint for a living, but I refuse to paint my walls. Nope, that's not me. That's so hard. I don't know if y'all have ever tried to paint rooms or bathrooms or whatever, but oh my goodness, it's a nightmare. It never works the way you think it's going to. Maybe some of y'all are thinking that about yard art. And if you are, I feel you, because this pattern has been a struggle for me. All right, so got one more seafoam. I'm trying to even say turquoise. That's not a turquoise. One more seafoam flower, and then I'm gonna do the centers of our flowers, and then I'll do the leaves. And then we're gonna move on to shading. So now this part, you're just seeing me kind of lay down that paint and smooth it out. You want those lines to be nice and smooth. You don't want to see the brush strokes, if at all possible. I think if you guys were noticing the brush strokes, you probably wouldn't care for the look, which that's how I am when I see brush strokes. Oh, I love that color. Her house is 3 years. Jennifer said that her house is 3 years old and she has painted everything but her bedroom. You're still a flat builder white. Well, hey, you're doing better than me, because all of mine is the same flat white, grayish tone, all of it. And in fact, it's a flat white, so it shows all the dirt, and it's one of those kind of whites that you can try to wipe off, but it's like it just smears the stain in even further, so you should have just left it to begin with. Yeah, that's the kind of paint I have inside my house. I love my house. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. We've been really blessed with where we're at right now. So I don't want to complain. I'm not complaining, but if somebody could come and paint my house and just, I don't even know what colors to use. I'm not good at doing interior colors. I can't pick that kind of thing out. So if somebody could just come in and be like, I got you, I'll figure it out, I'm gonna make it happen, that would be like a dream come true. But you know, I don't know that really exists out there. Somebody to come in and read your mind, have that crystal ball. Yes, and with kids, it's horrible. Jennifer, I hear you. You know what? I was hanging up laundry earlier, and we had a new cable company come out today to do our cable. So, you know, I'm just trying to make sure it looks decent, and we don't have, like, I don't know, stuff hanging out that you don't want hanging out. And as I'm coming down the hallway, I see a black handprint on the wall that's child size. I only have one child, so guess who that would be? And I'm like, oh my goodness, can we have anything nice? No, you can't. Not when you have kids. I know there's got to be a mom or two out there that totally understands what I'm saying. So I'm just taking that yellow right now. I'm sorry, I feel like I go off on tangents. But I'm just taking that yellow and kind of filling in the centers of my flowers. When you guys are doing this, you don't have to be so simple and plain. Really, I could have done different flowers, like maybe with the rounded leaves, kept those centers the same, and the pointed leaves kept those centers the same. But for the sake of trying to show and teach at the same time, I didn't want to bring too much into it. I wanted to go for the more simple look. Now, I don't know if y'all can see, but my yellow has dragged into the other colors here and there, but that's okay. You're not going to be able to see it by the time we finish. All right, so now the only thing that I have left, the other pieces that you see white, those are going to be green for our leaves. Now, I like to use lime green as opposed to like Crayola green. I feel like lime green is a much better base for grass when you only have these small little areas. If I had a big area of grass, I would use more of that Crayola green, or we call it Christmas green. But when I'm talking spring and flowers, I prefer lime for your leaf color. So that's why you're gonna see me use your lime. This is the same color that I use on like zombie hands, or that we would use on like the witch cauldron, cauldron? The black pot? I think I'm saying that right. Cauldron? Like on the bubbles on a witch cauldron, we would use this color too. Or Grinch would be a lime green. But other than that, we don't use lime green too much. But I really feel like the contrast that this is gonna give me with these bright colors is gonna be a heck of a lot better than using, you know, Crayola green, your traditional green. I feel like this helps to make it pop. Now, typically, Carly's been out here helping me to read comments, and I feel like I've been having to concentrate a bit more today because, like I said at the beginning, I'm not 100% sold on, you know, the way I'm going to show you guys how to do this. I just struggled with this pattern. I really struggled with it because at the top and all these flowers, they're very small and they're very close together. I got some AC boy hair in my leaf over here. But they're very close together, so it doesn't lend you a whole lot of space to shade. And so whenever I was throwing my shade or taking my shader against the piece earlier, like I would normally shade anything, it ended up only leaving you about like this much space, like maybe a centimeter of space that you could see that original color you even put on the flower. And so it looked just awful. I didn't like it. And so, you know, I knew that that wasn't gonna end up working. So I had to kind of change my plan and come up with something that still looked good and brought as much to the piece, but didn't take away from the actual colors that we're using. So, like I said, technique's a little different than anything I've used before. All right, so this one is fully base coated. Here's just kind of like what it's gonna look like when you're gonna have to let it dry. Now, I already do have one ready to go that I prepped earlier that I was talking about. And by the way, also on Monday, I told you guys that we would not have stakes for this and stakes would be separate. But Tony came yesterday and today, and so I asked him if he could figure out how to get these on cold roll steel that it would still hold up. And so he was able to do that for us. So any of you guys that order this, they're actually gonna already have your stakes on there for you. So thank you, Tony. Tony's amazing. We love Tony. All right, so now this one is the same exact thing that you just saw. It's already base coated. Hey, Chelsea, good to see you. This is the cutest piece you've ever seen. Honey, it's not even done yet, but thank you. So all I did, same thing. Now, I will show you, I made sure on this one, and I got up a lot closer to these lines, and I went really slow and made sure that those lines touched. And the reason I did that is because I'm not gonna do that traditional black outline on my flowers that you guys normally see me do on everything that I do. And the reason I'm not doing that is because these flowers are small and they're spring colored, and if you put a lot of black on there, it's gonna really take away from the effect that you're going for. So between the piece I just moved over and this piece, all I did was make sure and get a little bit closer to those lines and kind of touch that up a little bit with the same base colors. Now, the only traditional shading I'm gonna do, which is like perimeter shading, I'm gonna do that with the brown. Other than that, none of the rest of this is gonna be traditional shading like I've shown so far. It's gonna be more wispy lines. So, on the wheelbarrow, the same dark color that you used when you did your like dry brushing before, that same dark color that you use to go across, you're gonna use to do some shading. So it's your dark brown. We do have it at the store. Now mine's still kind of thick. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it. Anytime I shade, I personally like my paint to be watered down a little bit. I feel like it just, every stroke is gonna go a little bit further. And I personally prefer to get long strokes because then you can't see all the times that you're reloading your brush. You want it to look like it was one stroke when a lot of times it's not. So, I'm trying to move some stuff out of the way. I can't see comments. You know, I'm always having issues with my Wi-Fi out here. Your comments come through like 5 minutes after the fact. All right, so I'm just taking that flat shader and I am dipping the corner at like a triangle in that dark brown. And now I'm gonna follow the perimeter on my wheelbarrow.
Looks good.
So I'm just letting that brush lay down flat, and I'm taking that loaded side up against my perimeter or my line. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to keep those strokes as long as possible so you don't see those broken lines where something is attaching. You know, kind of like this. You're gonna always have to take that middle attachment and spread it out. So that's why I prefer to try to get it in one stroke. So I'm just gonna follow that pattern that's etched on there for you. That's always like such a nice thing, and I try not to forget about the days that we used to have to trace our pattern on with butcher paper and graphite paper. Y'all, I can't even explain to y'all how annoying that was. And now the line is just there on the wood for you.
You're doing good, Mom.
Thank you, baby. All right, so as far as the shading on the wheelbarrow, I'm leaving it at this. I did that perimeter line. The rest of it's the dry brushing. And since I have those colors brought throughout the entire part of my brown, I'm not doing any more to it. I just did dry brush and perimeter with my flat shader, and that's it. I'm gonna leave the wheelbarrow alone until I need to outline it. Ooh, I guess it would help if I took my spoon out. All right, so now I'm gonna start working on my flowers. So remember I told you guys that I'm gonna show you guys something a little different that I've normally done before that I'm not 100% sold. Sorry. Let me see. I gotta get my brush back out that I just put in here. If I could find it. Let's see. Sorry, y'all, I should have cleaned out this bucket that has too many brushes in it. All right, so I'm gonna take this brush and I'm gonna do the same thing with those angles. Now, on the pointed flower, I personally, I'll show you this one. This is what I'm achieving here. On the pointed flowers, I liked using my angle shader and just doing a couple of swipes on each point. But when it came to the rounded tip flowers, I liked something a little different. So first I'll do the pointed tip with this, which is just using your corner with a little bit of paint and kind of just going around. So for my blue, I'm going to use that teal that I used on the welcome truck on Monday. I'm getting just a little bit on the corner. I don't need much because it is just kind of little swishes. I don't want to give it too much because with how small these are, it can become a lot very quickly. So now I'm gonna get my coral and I'm gonna do my other two coral leaves, or coral flowers, excuse me, because they're pointed, because I'm gonna keep the same brush for the pointed. When I switch to the rounded, I'm gonna switch to a round tip brush. So let me just clean this right quick. I'm so glad you guys are here with us tonight. I feel like you're watching the Hot Mess Express, because I'm just faking it till I make it on a daily. So yeah, but I'm glad y'all are here. All right, now I have that shading orange, y'all. Same thing that we use on like pumpkins, and we use this in Easter stuff. When it comes to the coral, this shading orange against that coral looks really, really good. I love the contrast that it gives. So I'm taking that shading orange, adding a little bit of water. I'm gonna get it watered down a little bit. I love the way that my brush flows with my shader when my paint's a little watered down. I don't personally care for the thick look because I feel like it makes my lines look way too thick. So I'm just kind of giving myself little swishes for the flowers to have that dimension to them. You don't care for this, you totally could just shade it normally or do highlights on it. There's so many different ways that you could paint a flower, and so, you know, don't limit yourself on that. I only painted them 4 different ways today that I repainted over because I didn't care for it. So, you know, it happens. It's all right. It's part of the painting process. Anytime I get a new pattern, I always struggle to just kind of figure out what I want to do. And then once I figure it out, I'm good to go. Now I'm gonna move over to my rounded flower. Remember I told you guys I'm gonna change brushes? This is like a round tip brush. The only thing I can read is it's a round tip number 6. And I know I got it from Hobby Lobby. And it's got a red handle. Whatever that means, y'all. I ordered a bunch of new brushes a couple of days ago that are coming in next week. And so when my new brushes come in, all these old ones are going to the garbage because I've had it with them. They just don't do what I want them to do no more. I actually might get this brush a little wet first because I used it wet earlier and I liked the look it gave me. All right, so I got my brush wet and then I just dipped it in my paint. I don't want this to be too thick. I want my lines to be more wispy. The only thing I did was go in almost a letter C kind of direction, just a wider C. Nothing too tight. Nothing that really binds you to any certain direction. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm going around the yellow circle in the middle and I'm sticking with that circular direction. That's all I'm trying to do. So all I did was take that shading orange and just went around my circle. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the turquoise. Now on the turquoise, I use teal to shade that one. The teal is the same color I did on the background of the truck Monday, and it gives you a great contrast to this. So I'm doing the same thing. I just washed out the same brush, the little round tip brush. Here's that teal that I used. I'm just getting a little bit in there. I personally like having a little bit of water in the brush. It seems to go a little bit smoother. So I'm taking it and I'm doing the letter C again, just a really open C. And I'm just trying to make sure I'm just sticking with the direction of this little yellow circle in the middle. You want it to look like it flows, right? You just don't want to be... I flipped the camera around, y'all, so I finally figured out how to flip it around when I'm painting something with a word so y'all can, read it correctly. But now it's freaking me out because I moved the pattern in one direction. It's not the right direction for what you guys need to see. So it's just weird. I can't get used to it. All right, I need to get used to it. Terry, it's so good to see you, honey. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Terry said it looks great. I appreciate it because I was struggling with this earlier. I just couldn't get it to look the way I wanted it to, and that's so frustrating as an artist. You think that it's going to come out the way you're wanting. You can envision it, and you know what colors you want to use and all that, and then it just doesn't happen. You know, what can I say? It just didn't happen. So here we are, faking it till we make it together. All right, so now I did that's what I'm going to call my shading on my flowers. I did not put too much. If you guys decide to go and shade it the way you normally shade it, I don't know, maybe you'll end up like I was feeling earlier. It was just too much. I didn't care for it. So I try to do a lot more, less is more. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna do my my leaves, excuse me. I am gonna just outline my leaves. Because they are so small, we're looking at maybe a 2" by 2.5" inch space on some of these. It might even be like a 1" by 2" space. Here I go, going the wrong way. And so you don't want to put too much color on there or too much shading on there because it'll become a really dark green blob. So I am going to do my dark green still that I would always do if I'm shading it normally. But I'm just going to actually use my script liner to outline those lines. So I'm just going to follow along with the perimeter of those lines that are given to me already. And then I'll come in and give it a little accent. Now I just had too much paint. I prefer these lines to be more elongated, but I'm not so good at always making that happen. Let's see. A lot of times, y'all, I practice that same motion the whole time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 leaves. So like the first 5 will look horrible, and then the last one will look perfect. Because that's just how it seems to go with me. But that's okay. A lot of times I don't care for the way something comes out, and then I kind of sleep on it and I'll come back to it the next day, and what do you know, it just looks so different. So I'm hoping that's what this is going to be for me. Did any of you guys struggle when you were doing peeps or eggs or any of the blanks that you've done so far? Did any of y'all feel like you just couldn't quite get it the way you wanted it to? Or is that just me? Because I feel like probably there's a lot of you guys that understand what I'm saying. I'm just doing some wispy lines in the middle, trying to make it look like a leaf. I'm not adding more paint. See, here we go. I'm not adding more paint to my brush after I do those strokes on the perimeter of it. I'm just simply using whatever paint I still have left inside of here. Now, you could always be more detailed with that, but for me, personally, I like less is more. So as far as my dark green, I'm gonna be done with it. I'm gonna put it up. And now, I'm gonna do the center of my flowers. No. Yeah, I'll do the center of my flowers and then I'm gonna outline that wheelbarrow because it's still kind of wet. So now on the center of my flowers, I'm just using that shading yellow. I just did regular yellow as your base. Shading yellow is gonna be my outliner. And I'm gonna water it down a little bit so that my brush will try to have as long a stroke as possible that I'm wanting. So I'm just watering this down and I'm gonna follow the perimeter of the circle that's there, that's already etched in there for you. I wish you guys could hear the birds chirping outside. It's so calm and quiet and the birds are just singing. I really enjoy that. I've also had a bird that keeps coming in here and hanging out with me every day. He brought a friend the other day and they hung out for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes with me singing songs. And then both of them decided to leave. And they didn't come back for a few days, but it's been nice having the birds around. I don't know if it's just the corona that makes you have the time to slow down and listen, but I sure do enjoy listening to them. Alrighty. The only reason you guys see me coming back across these lines a few times, typically I would just do that line once. But some of these lines are a little deeper. My machine was not being very nice to me the last couple of days. And so I can still see those lines through there that don't have the yellow paint down in there. So I'm just kind of going across them a couple of times. All right. Now, I tried to do dots in these flowers earlier. I tried to do all sorts of stuff in the centers, and I could not find anything I liked other than the crosshatch. And I don't know what it was that just drew me to this, but I just loved the way it looked. And so that's how I'm doing these. Remember I told you guys kind of less is more sometimes? It's kind of nice to just see something a little different and not too over the top. I felt like this was just that thing that you could do that's just not too over the top. So I hope you guys like it like I ended up liking it after repainting 1,000 times. This makes a huge difference. Yes, thank you so much, Terry. All right, so I'm keeping the centers like that. Now, in fact, I'm just now realizing, y'all, I actually shaded this turquoise with the dark green, but I shaded this turquoise with the teal. Oops, I'm gonna have to fix that tomorrow, but that's okay. But the look that I was going for with the flowers, I wanted something to be light and wispy and very floral and spring colored. So the last thing I wanted to do was take a dark, like a black, and do all the outlining in black. I felt like that would just be too much. Actually, hold on. I have to outline my wheelbarrow, and then I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do with the black, because we're not going to do the traditional perimeter outline in black like we do with almost everything else. Now, the wheelbarrow, since I did it in that reindeer kind of brown color, and I shaded in my dark brown, I'm using a maroon for my outline. So if you don't have maroon, totally take red and black, mix them together, and you can make this. But this is just red and black mixed together. It's maroon and with some water in it, and I like it to that real drippy consistency. I don't know, like a soup stew, a stoop. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm gonna use it. You wanted about that consistency. Danae said she needs all these colors. Well, honey, you come on over and we will get them for you. But I'm gonna take that maroon and I'm just gonna do that perimeter outline around my wheelbarrow only. I love outlining the browns in a maroon color as opposed to a black. It gives you that good contrast between the color families. And it makes things just kind of pop in a different way than if you were to only use black. Years ago, we only used black. And man, I wish I could show you guys some photos, because the difference between that and then switching up to some of these lighter outline colors for your lighter colors or certain color families, it really just makes a huge difference. So you don't have black, that's fine, just mix it. You could totally mix this. All right, now I made a little drip right there. I'm gonna leave that profile of my wheelbarrow just like that. I'm not doing anything else to it. Oh, in fact, actually, no. I take that back. I lied. I didn't fill in my little circle. All right. Now, I'm done with the wheelbarrow. I'm not doing anything else to it. Typically, you do the white highlights at the end, right? But since this already has that light colored tan, that we call it a camel color, that's what we refer to as camel. I'm not gonna put white in it because that does bring highlights to the brown. As long as every color that I have on here has some sort of highlights, I'm good. It doesn't always end up being white. So in that case, it's a tan color. All right, now, when it comes to the flowers and the leaves, I am gonna do more of a wispy line. I am not trying to make this thick. I am not trying to follow the perimeter of everything. I don't know if you remember that I told you guys, but you know, we base coated this one together, right? And I told y'all when I picked up this one, the only difference I did in between that I couldn't show on live was I came up a lot closer with all of my lines, and you don't see any white sticking through. Your lines of your color are just a lot more tight knit. And the reason I did that is because I knew I was not gonna take this black and fully outline everything. I don't think you'll care for the way that it looks when it comes to the colors that you have and the size of this piece. So I'm gonna do more wispy lines and just make it to be one of those things that has a little bit of black and not too much. So again, I know I told y'all I'm not 100% like, hey, I figured out this trick and it works really great. I think something like this would work really fantastic on canvas or something that doesn't have those lines etched. But when it comes to those lines being etched, for me and what I'm used to, it kind of freaked me out to not fill those lines in with black. And I think that's why I really struggled with this pattern today. But then I kind of just decided, Melissa was over here. She's the girl that helps to package all of the paint that you guys have been getting. That comes from Melissa. So thank you, Melissa. We appreciate you. But Melissa was here earlier packaging paint. And we were, you know, she saw me working on this and we were talking about like, oh, okay, no, do this. No, don't do that. You know, just having somebody to bounce ideas off of. And honestly, we both loved this look in comparison to being fully outlined lines. We thought the more, we thought the more thin, wispy lines looked good. Y'all, oh my goodness. Somebody needs to bring me a margarita because I cannot today. Oh my Lanta. All right, well, that one's gonna have to be fixed quite a bit. So, hold on, forgive me. I cannot believe it. This is what happens when I start talking. I start messing up. Oh my goodness. All right, so he's gonna require a lot of touch-ups in the way that I'm gonna show him finished. He's not gonna be finished until tomorrow because he's gotta dry some. Oh, yo, that's such an annoying thing. I would probably be saying too many choice words at this moment if you guys weren't with me because that is so annoying. All right, well, back to my lines. I'm doing some light wispy lines on the perimeter of these flowers. I don't want them too dark. I love the way that this ended up looking with just a little bit, not too much. A little bit enough that you can see that that's that outline of your flower, but not so much that it's too bold. Plus, I also feel like this makes it so simple to see the bright colors as well. I'm still mad at myself, y'all. I also was helping to pour paint earlier. You thought it was the lid too. Yeah, no, honey, I think I took my hand and I was just talking too heavy and I just flunk it out there. It happens, and anybody who knows me knows I'm very over the top about showing my emotions. So anybody who's ever worked with me before, they know how that goes. I'm really theatrical, especially when it comes to something that I'm like proud of, and then I screw it all up, you know? How can you not be theatrical? Okay, so as far as my black goes, I'm done. Now, bear with me. I'm gonna do a couple of touch-ups really quick that I know I can do right now. I'm sorry. Nope, that's my blue. That ain't my turquoise. I can try to fix a lot of this and be able to at least give y'all a better idea of what it's gonna look like. Now, obviously, anytime you mess up like I just messed up, best thing to do, wipe off what you can, unless everything's wet. If it's super wet, leave it. But wipe off what you can and then come back after the whole thing is dry. And it's so much easier to fix the problems then. If you're trying to fix it while it's wet, which a lot of this ended up getting splattered, so it is dry. But if you're trying to fix it when it's wet, you're gonna honestly start to lose your mind because it's not gonna do what you want it to do. So those of you that just hopped on, I spilt a bunch of paint earlier, and I am just trying to kind of clean up my mistakes before I finish this out. The only thing I'm gonna have left to do that I'm gonna be doing on here is throwing a little bit of white on here. But here I am just doing a couple of touch-ups. But you know, when you use paint, it happens. That's why we say paint doesn't get out of anything. So wear old clothes, because it's not forgiving and it does not wash. All right. I think I'm gonna have to leave it at this point, and all the other boo-boos are gonna have to wait. No, not you. For sure. All right. Okay, so how are y'all liking this? Because, again, this was new. I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't 100% sold on the way I was doing it. But I just felt like, you know, when you have that original idea and then you try to change it and everything that you try to change about it just becomes 10 times harder. And then you go back to your original idea. That was this original idea. And every time I try to say, no, don't do it, do this, do that, I just hated it. I hated it. So I ended up doing this and I loved it. So the only other thing I'm gonna add is some white. That's it, nothing else. A little bit of white and leave it. Here I go, dripping again. I think I need to have a sink next to me. In fact, when I do paint, anybody who's been to my workshop, my sink is next to me where I usually paint. But I had to have this live wall behind me close to the door because of internet, since we live in the middle of nowhere. And so my sink is on the other side of my workshop. But there's a reason I don't paint with my sink on the other side of my workshop, because I'm very messy. I'm always making a mess. All right, so white, watered down. I'm gonna come across that crosshatch, but I'm gonna do it as light as possible. In fact, mine's not watered down enough because I don't even really wanna be able to see the lines fully. I almost want it like transparent white. I don't want it stark, because remember how I didn't want the thick black lines? It's the same thing with the white. I don't want those thick either. I want them thin and wispy, almost to just kind of blend in with what's already there, not to take away from all the work that you've already done. So I don't know how good you guys can see how I'm trying to do it real light wispy, but I'll bring it up close as soon as I get done. All right. And then I'm just gonna come across on my flowers now. Give it a little bit. I almost feel like sometimes I go in too much of a pattern, and I think that's honestly just something I'm so used to. So feel free to break the mold a little bit and not follow every flower along perfectly. You know, I do think that some of them need to look imperfect. I'm also taking a little bit of that white and just kind of coming in between those little shading parts on the leaves, just a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed, I have not refilled my brush. I was about to drop my brush. I've not refilled my brush because I don't want too much white on here. I want super, super wispy lines. I'm only gonna refill my brush when I absolutely have to, when there's nothing left, because I don't want anything too thick or too dark. Now, since this turquoise is wet from me doing my little touch-ups, I actually kind of like the look of it wet with the white in it. I think that's pretty. I don't know that I want the turquoise on my coral, but I'm just giving it a little bit of a highlight, kind of following along those same lines I already did. And really just kind of coming in between them a little bit to just add that little pop. All right, hold on. Only thing I think I have left, I wiped, I think when I was cleaning off my boo-boos earlier, a lot of that dark green came off right here. So let me just fix that right quick. Now again, I didn't do any dark shading or not want any dark highlighting. Outlining. I wanted it light and wispy to be fun and springy. So, what do you guys think? I hope you guys love it. I repainted 4 of these today trying to get it right, and this is what I ended up on. So I hope you guys like this. I wanted to make it simple enough that beginning painters could do this. You don't have to have a lot of experience to do what I just showed you to do. Very simple moves, like a letter C, just opened a little bit wider, and really light brush strokes. That's all I did. It's honestly something I think you guys could easily achieve, which is why I went with this look. Now, I had the intention of doing flowers this whole time, but they're still here because I didn't paint them. I'm sorry, but here's the flower finished. Same thing as you just did on the wheelbarrow. It's just obviously single. I did real light wispy lines, your crosshatch. The only thing I didn't do on here was the white. I was supposed to do that with the wheelbarrow, but sorry, didn't happen. I'm gonna have him at the store tomorrow for those of you that are coming to pick up this pattern so you guys can take a look at it. I hope you guys found this helpful. Deidre, she says she loves it. Thank you. Jessica likes it. Thank you so much. Jenna, good to see you. Jennifer, Danae, I'm so glad. I'm glad you guys love it. I think it's gorgeous. So after I get it touched up some and, fix all my boo-boos I did from spilling paint all over it, then I'll get a really good up-close photo so that you guys can see it afterwards. But I appreciate you guys joining me on this Friday night, and we will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.